Okay, so here's a few demonstrations of left-hand techniques. One of the starting points for left-hand technique would be legato playing, and that is going to be playing smoothly, where we're going to be hammering on or pulling off our finger. Now notice on this side we're only going to pick the note once. So if I play the G note and the E note on this string, I could play it normally with picking with your finger on the right hand or a guitar pick, and the E separately. Or you could do a pull off, which means you pick here to start the G note, then to get the E note, I pull the finger off the fretboard. Now the sound was made with this hand. So what you're doing is sometimes good to have a bit of fingernail on the tip here to actually help pull that string off. So it's not a lift up, you won't get any sound, you actually have to pull down to the floor like this. Pull off. G, pulled off to E. Now we could do the other technique, which is a hammer on. A hammer on is when you slam or hammer your finger down to make a sound. Say if we were to play E, we would pick it. We could also pick the G. That's the normal way of playing with this hand, picking the note. We can make the sound by slamming this finger down in a hammer on. So I'm going to pick the E, and then I'm going to lift this finger up high enough that when I slam down, I make a sound like this. E, hammer. Now you can do it at different speeds. It's a bit of target practice. It's good to find the note first, then lift off to practice hammering it down. That's a good technique, a good exercise. So I'm touching where I want to go, lifting, and then hammering it down. So hammer on. So I picked the E, then I slammed or hammered the finger down. As you see, it'll take some practice to get used to. Pick, hammer on. A pull off now would be ripping that finger down. Another technique is a continuation of this, and that's using this finger to hammer on, and we call that finger tapping, and it could be any of these fingers on the right hand. So if I find that note again, wherever I want to play, I'm going to pick a B note here on the first string, and I'm going to hammer it down, what we really call a tap, because it's tapping with this hand, a right hand tap. So I make the sound by slamming down hard enough onto the fretboard and holding the note there. Okay? And that's the same with this. You want, when you're doing a hammer on with this hand, the left hand, you want to hold the note down, because as soon as you release the pressure, the note will die. Right? So keep it down until you want the note to end. And then you can finish it however you like. Maybe you want to do a pull-off. The other thing would be the tap, the right-hand tap here. So I'm going to combine these notes here, the B. Now I can do a pull-off with this as well, with the right hand. And I swipe down, and I pick that note to make a sound. Now I can combine these to make a really cool pattern, similar to Van Halen. And basically what it is it's an arpeggio. It's the notes of a chord. An E minor chord has E, G, and B, or an E minor arpeggio. So I'm going to hammer this down, pull it off, then I'm going to hammer this left hand on the G and pull it off. So I'm doing a hammer on and a pull off with both hands. So B, pull off, G, pull off. So hammer, pull, hammer, pull. So it's really right and left hand. 2 motions with each hand. Hammer, pull off, hammer, pull off. So those are the basics of legato playing, hammer-ons and pull-offs. It has a smoother sound because you don't get that strong picking attack sound. Usually it's not as loud. It takes quite a bit of practice and technique to get much volume out of it. You need to have a proper hammer that goes straight down onto the fretboard and it hits hard. So it needs to have some distance to slam down. Kind of like a snake prepares to bite. And the pull-off, you need to have a strong enough motion swiping the string off. Or else, if all you're doing is a light tapping sound and no swiping down, you won't get much sound as opposed to. So big movement, hard pressure, strong pull off, big movement, hard pressure, strong pull off, and you'll get a good sound that way. And you can have fun with that, and there's many ways to add on to that, and just a good example is to watch the Eruption solo by Van Halen, and you can see him do that. There's other acoustic guitar players that also do this technique. You don't always have to combine the two. You can use one or the other. They're really great techniques. One really important technique to take from the legato playing is it starts from the classical and Baroque eras, and even probably before that, and that's what we call a trill. Now there's many ways to do a trill, but the basic idea of a trill is kind of what we've been doing, but you go back and forth on 2 notes, generally, sometimes more. But in this case, we're going to practice going between 2 notes with a hammer-on and a pull-off to create that legato smooth sound. So that could be a trill. That would be a trill as well. We could even pick these 2 notes, they're right beside each other. Often classical and trills can be added to songs that you already know. And you can add usually 1 note above or 1 note below the note it's supposed to be, and you end and you trill on it quickly. You make a trill, which is a back and forth motion, kind of like a bird. And then you return to the note that it's supposed to be in the music. So if it was an E note, I did a hammer on, pull off, pull off. I did a double pull off there. So if the music note said this E note, I could play it that way. And that's sort of a way of coloring up. We call it ornamentation. It was very popular in the Baroque era. They did it all throughout the music, even though it wasn't written there. Performers would add it in when they thought it was appropriate. So trills, yeah. Basically back and forth, hammer on and pull-offs of usually two notes. So that covers legato playing, hammer-ons, pull-offs with the left hand and with the right hand. And that's the basics of that, and we can do more advanced things from there. One other cool example is in flamenco music, they have this trill, this ornamentation that keeps going on and on and on almost forever, like a waterfall. It just never stops. So they hold this chord here and they switch between these notes like this. So there's nothing going on with this hand right now. It's just these 2 notes, 3 notes being carried on. F sharp, G, F sharp, E, F sharp, or 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. I start the chord here to get some nice harmony to go with this trill. And I think part of the idea of that is from a style of flamenco called por Tarantas, which is there's a place in Spain called Taranto, and they have a lot of mines there, and I think it comes from the echo sound of the miners when they were singing. They would hear it coming back to them like that, like an echo. Very cool.